And welcome everybody once again to a Safe Place podcast. The last episode we spoke briefly about anxiety, which has led us on to talking about obsessive compulsive disorder, which is classed as an anxiety disorder in of itself, and it's something that comes quite home to what me and Ron experienced with our dad, wasn't it, Ron?
Yeah.
So talk to us about what you seen in somebody suffering with OCD, Ron, in terms of dad.
But Dad's was, I only really found out about it when I got older.
Yeah.
But our dad's, his OCD was fear of hurting me or me going out and something happening to me.
Yeah.
Like there was loads of things he'd done. Me growing up, he used to bribe me with things to not go out of the house. So it was hard because I had a park which used to be about 50 yards from the front of my house. I used to see kids playing in there. I'd say to my dad, can I go out? Because there's kids in the park, or there's a mate in the park that lived just down the road, and my dad would say, like, there was loads of things. Like,
there was a story about, I think he said when you was about a few months old, Dad was always living with the idea that he didn't want another kid.
Yeah.
Like a lot of parents can feel in terms of, can I afford another kid?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to work longer hours? And when Ryan came along, Dad had that thought of, was it a good idea to have another kid? Now, what happened was Ryan got ill all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And he was a few months old, and he froze up. And
went limp.
He went limp, and it scared the life out of Mum and Dad. And one of them ran over to the doctors, and we live right next to the GP surgery. Yeah. The doctor came over and put a cold spoon in Ryan's mouth, and it seemed to shock his nervous system and bring him back.
Yeah.
Now, Dad always associated his thoughts about not having Ryan to something awful happening to Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, and he felt guilty for it. So his obsessive compulsive disorder, or his fear of being responsible for something happening to Ryan, led him to try and control Ryan and always keep him close to himself, so he knew Ryan was safe.
Yeah.
Based on the experience of when he was almost died, what your father thought he would...
Yeah, it scared the life out of him. Yeah. So he had an experience that was awfully frightening. He held himself responsible for that. So to alleviate that responsibility, guilt and fear, his obsessive compulsive disorder tried to control Ryan, to put him in a nice box somewhere safe, so my dad could feel better.
And unknowingly to Ryan, who wouldn't understand this at the time, would you? You'd just see a father that was controlling, trying to keep you in.
Yeah.
You'd actually see a bad view.
But that was the thing, because it was always bribes as well. So it would say that it would buy me different things and new things just so I wouldn't go out.
And did you see that as a good part of your dad, or a bad part?
Well, obviously it was a good part because I was only young.
So you was happy to be...
Oh, yeah, 100%. Of course, I was happy I was getting new things.
Yeah, so then you get a behaviour in the future in your life where you just expect that as some sort of love, don't you? Do you see how you can link that to a normality?
I always see it as now is that because I was spoilt so much, I didn't really grow up.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have an incentive to go out and work hard to earn and get good things.
Which is a story that we can talk about in the future, how it affected you. But let's keep it on the OCD aspect of what we're talking about. So Dad had an anxiety or a fear based on a difficult experience that he had some sort of attachment to guilt over.
Yeah.
That if he kept you at a certain distance close to himself, he would feel less anxious, less afraid, and in of itself, a perfect example of obsessive compulsive disorder,
it's
which
like
is a fear-based.
Yeah, because I remember times when I was eventually allowed out. So there's times where I'd go out and Dad would turn up out of the blue raging.
Yeah.
Like, where have you been? I couldn't see you, or I couldn't get hold of you. Like, where have you been? Like, it was just...
He was just in an anxiety panic.
Of course he was,
and the sad thing is, the beautiful thing is at the same time, is he just wanted to feel safe. That was the only way he found he could, by trying to change reality outside of himself to put you back here so he could feel safe.
Yeah, that's it.
Rather than being conscious enough to do the internal work and actually go into his own sense of fear. his anxiety and his guilt and feel it and understand it came from a misperception of what happened in reality.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to, we witnessed that in Dad. Now, what happened was, many years later, as Dad not only suffered with obsessive compulsive thoughts that went into keeping Ryan safe, they also went into many aspects of us where he thought, or he was afraid that he was going to hurt one of us kids as well, which I don't know where that come from, but I could assume or presume enough to say that what happened is, as most parents, we get pissed off with the kids sometimes, and there's an instinct in us to grab hold of them or smack the hand or whatever. Dad had that same instinct, that same thought concept, felt repulsed and hurt by it, scared of it, rejected it, and then it demonised within himself. And many years later, his anxiety got that unbearable for himself, and because there was no one around him, and these were, again, psychiatrists and doctors that didn't really know what was going on inside Dad, and it's a shame to say that, but it's a reality that we have to accept. They couldn't give him the support he needed. There wasn't no one to make him consciously aware enough of his state to help him through it, until the point came where Dad couldn't feel the fear anymore, and the option, what seemed like the only option at the time for him, was to end his life. And he did. He ended his life, didn't he?
This really frustrates me as well. I know this is about the OCD, if you want to just concentrate on that, but this really, really bugs me, because your dad could still be here now with his friends, with his family, if he had the right opportunities and saw the right people.
Absolutely, pal.
With this illness, and it frustrates me, because I hear now young people, old people, any age people, self-harming, killing themselves with this just normality, even in with care, NHS, and they're just still killing themselves. So something's not working out here.
Go on, sorry.
And it just frustrates me, because it's like, if I know also you've lost a mother to cancer when you was young, that's a little bit like, we couldn't do anything about that. We had to catch it at a certain point and try and do something. But this mental illness one, we can. This isn't something that was in your dad that couldn't be removed.
No, definitely.
And the thing is, the reason why it is, and anyone that's watching this with anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorder, which is different from our dads in a sense that some people like to keep as clean as possible and move ornaments and objects around.
Switches.
And what everything that's going on inside that person, whether it's a man that's afraid he's getting his son hurt, or a person that needs to move ornaments around or clean the hands, what unites all of those different situational triggers to bring up the anxiety is your inability to feel anxious, your lack of actually understanding yourself enough to realise you just want to feel safe. And the whole of culture's lack of understanding of what is mental health puts all these different concepts and thoughts in place and different systems that goes, that's mental health, that's tablets right there, something's wrong with you, I can't fix you. And in the end, you're left isolated. The only way you can ever free yourself from mental health is knowledge of yourself. Now, anybody that's watching this at home, anybody that's suffering, anybody that's going to go and pick up the phone after watching this podcast and scroll through Facebook, I urge you to start listening to what we're saying, because this isn't just coming from three idiots sitting in well, it is coming from three idiots. We are three idiots. But it's coming from people that have been through a lot of shit. But
Hold on a sec. Yeah, it's definitely three idiots.
Three idiots, yeah. Instead of it coming from three people that are just churning out crap, it's coming from three people that have been through a lot of shit, and instead of trying to drown it out with alcohol or TV or something, we've gone and done some fucking inner work and tried to understand what's going on.
You've got an NHS system for mental health that clearly isn't working.
No, it's not.
It's not working. So then people get anxious and worried because they can't afford a psychiatrist, because some people ain't that fortunate.
Yeah.
So then you get people like us that would do a podcast to try and help people and like that can't afford a psychiatrist.
And do you know these people with loads of money? Who was a recent famous woman who committed suicide? Flack, wasn't it? Caroline
Flack, yeah.
She had the money to see a therapist. Yeah. Really, could spend a lot of money on a top therapist, but she still committed suicide. And she had fame. She was involved in TV popular episodes,
Love
and people
Island.
would just look at her and think, she's got it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she still just took her own life.
Yeah.
Now, how can we stop this? Because we know inside ourselves, when we've done this inner work, that there's a place where we can get a bit of freedom from this.
Absolutely freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom from...
I'll put it purely down to feeling alone. If that person feels like that they're alone, they have nobody. I think that's the darkest place they can be in.
Well,
I
let's
think that's
break
the
it down
place
even
where-
deeper.
Go on.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that feeling of loneliness is that uncomfortable, that the idea of not feeling something or the unknown of killing yourself
Yeah,
sees like it's a way out, right?
definitely.
But what it is fundamentally is a feeling.
Mm.
People are killing themselves over a feeling. Now, the only way to change that is to change people's thoughts so they experience and perceive their feelings differently. Yeah. That every feeling that you have, no matter how uncomfortable, is an opportunity to transcend an old thinking paradigm that causes you suffering. The one thing that's awful about modern culture is the idea that we've become lost in a thinking mind. Instead of feeling and being, we're in a mind that's constantly thinking of ways out to avoid the most human, natural, normal condition of experiencing through feeling and emotion.
Yeah,
It doesn't get simpler than that, does it?
Einstein said that famous quote, it's one of the best things ever, isn't it, about you can't change the behaviour with the same thoughts, the same mind.
No.
So you can't do the same things over and over again and ever expect different results.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, right, what do you have? I have an OCD. I can't go out of the house without turning every switch on.
Yeah.
And
then getting 2 steps down the drive and going, did I turn them all off? And then having to go back in and do it all over again.
Then being at work thinking, did I? Anxiety, have I left the oven on? Blah, de blah. Which
Everything becomes ritualistic. You need to go through a same set of patterns every single day until you're looking for one thing that always exists inside of you. Security.
And what's going on in that mind? That mind is just over-analysing this thing of life. Are we doing this and this?
Yeah.
And the place that is your saviour is the lack of that thought, as in, you know what, I'm going to just walk out the house.
I'm going to abolish all of my thoughts and I'm just going to walk out into the breeze.
And if I haven't turned the light switch off, I don't care.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Just let it go.
It's very simple.
And again, look at that. If I don't turn the light switch off, I don't care. But the feeling and fear says a different story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You just got to go outside, feel the fear. Go outside and feel it and walk away from that house. I know it sounds easier said than done. You're looking for security. How are you ever going to find security with a mind that's got lost in a program that's always looking for something that's uncertain or insecure? It's the idea that imagine hundreds of years ago, there's a princess. She lives in a lovely castle and she's grew up within the castle grounds all of her life.
She got long hair.
No, she's one of the very few princesses within the kingdom that's decided to go for the feminist
Sinead O'Connor look.
She's gone for the Sinead O'Connor skinhead, yeah.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah, she did, yeah.
Britney Spears.
It's a true story.
That'll be a good Disney film, actually.
It would. So she's decided now she's going to leave the castle grounds, and it's been forbidden for many decades, right?
Is there an evil witch?
Not yet.
Sounds a bit like Thumbelina to me, this.
Right, so she's left the castle grounds, and one day she's walking in this beautiful open countryside full of butterflies and birds singing, and out somewhere in the distance she sees a lion, right? And the lion charges for her. She still doesn't seem any sense of fear because she's never seen a lion before. The lion jumps on her, tries to gouge her eyes out with his teeth, and then somebody comes along and manages to rescue her by killing the lion and takes her back into the house. Now, she's had an experience of reality that was frightening. What happens is, Thumbelina, the Sinead O'Connor short-haired princess, right, now fears going out, and that fear's right to be there. She had a difficult experience.
That lion was nasty.
It is. But over a period of time, she starts to go out. But because that fear's there, what it does is it means that her brain now, this organ that's constantly searching for patterns that are similar to the first experience, looks at things in the distance, and even a little bush far away now looks like a lion. That actually now that experience has made the brain put all these different that don't even look like lions together and create a reality that reflects this emotional state. Now, a person suffering with OCD, your mind is going to create those images or those bushes that look like lions. Everything's going to come back and reflect this feeling of fear. And you've got, the only way to transcend it is to accept that your mind, your brain, your thinking pattern forming organ inside of your head is different to your sense of you.
Now, I'd like to ask everybody who's watching this and who does watch this, what's your lions? What is your lions of uncomfortable patterns of behaviour that keep you down?
Mine's the lion from The Wizard of Oz.
It's a scary looking lion.
I thought you were talking about metaphors.
But he wasn't scary, was he?
He
was more scared of... What's her name from Wizard of Oz?
Dorothy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we go back to the OCD. So, you're looking for security. If I move that ornament, I'm going to feel better. If I lower that gas knob down and turn it off, I feel better. If I make sure my hands are scrubbed, I feel better. The fact of the matter is you can logically rationalise everything and realise that every work surface is covered with billions of different parts.
And there's other ones where...
I always had that OCD, or did I washing hands?
Yeah.
Yeah, really bad. Always had to wash my hands. Just thought of germs.
And other people's hands. Do you remember that? That was strange.
You like other people's hands. So...
But the OCD as well, we're thinking some people will be just sitting at home now thinking, well, I haven't got that, so this podcast is pointless for me.
Yeah,
What
yeah
we're
they're going
saying
upstairs now to set the alarm clock for Monday morning.
Yeah.
Because they're petrified about if they're late for work. And the incredible thing is, we think that some people are watching this and a very few amount of them are going, yeah, I've got OCD, and they're conscious of it. And most people are going, I've not got that, I'm going to turn it off.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's 60 million people in this country, 40 million of them get up every Monday, they set their alarm clock, they go into jobs that they don't want to do, all because they're suffering with a type of anxiety or mental health, one could argue, that if they don't, they're going to rot, they're not going to have any food on the table, that all the family's going to die, the wife will leave me, my kids will starve to death. So without even realising it,
that's it. They've got
everyone's trapped inside a mental place of suffering.
Look at the time. Time was one for me. If I am not punctual and on time, it stresses me out.
And the funny thing is about you is the fact that you was always unpunctual, always turning up at the wrong time, which meant that you was always looking to create your own suffering without even consciously knowing it there.
Well, either way was always going to be suffering for me, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So it's important to know that you're looking for security. The incredible thing is you will never find it by trying to find it.
What happens with this princess? What does she do?
Well, the princess is the idea that she's stuck forever because she's not even aware that her mind will make things look like lions to protect her from ever going into the same experience ever again.
Prince.
The only way she ever got out the house. Okay, let's say that she got out the house.
It's probably a princess now.
The only way she ever got out the house was by having somebody in her life that knew that much about themselves that could help her become more aware of herself and how her mind, nervous system and body worked to the point where she could then take the necessary steps to walk out into that garden again.
This sounds like Shrek now.
It's gone into Shrek.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
I would argue as well, got a little spanner in the Disney story.
Yeah.
Let me just throw it in there.
Yeah,
I apologise.
No, go for it.
Can the
In
spanner talk?
turn, even if the princess gets this white knight to help her, or the somebody to kill the lion, it all goes from her helping herself to even ask for this other person, doesn't it?
Okay.
So it's I know what you're saying. We all need that rock. Yeah. I wouldn't have been where I was without the help.
Well, let's break
in the
down
past.
what you just said then. So it's the idea it's got to come from her. Now, the beautiful thing is that the only possibility of that occurring, and it won't be a conscious choice from her to change, it will be the fact that her life is that miserable in the palace.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fulfill so many needs and wants and desires that she has, that suffering becomes that uncomfortable. She either wallows in it or it's catapults her out to transcend it.
I could imagine a cat jumping on the windowsill outside and the princess just going, ha ha ha, because she thinks it's a lion.
Well, and someone with OCD would react and have panic attacks over what would seem to you irrational, but they're all rational based on some sort of discomfort or pain or suffering that they've been through in their life. So that really doesn't do it justice, does it, the OCD? And we should probably speak about it again. But the most important thing is be conscious that the reality that you're trying to change outside of yourself by moving objects around, by cleaning your hands, by turning gas knobs down, isn't the way of fixing it. It's for you to be able to go into your state of being and lose all these intellectual concepts that thoughts bring, which inevitably are more uncomfortable and only prolong the suffering.
And like most things with mental health, people say it like they've got it and they've got it for life. Do you know what I mean? Like a medication's going to just fix it. And it's what we're saying is no. It all starts from one thought.
Yeah.
Changes the feeling, or the feeling that changes the thought.
Yeah. All right, then. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.